How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Maverick Designs Woodworking. My name is Tom. Today we're going to do something a little bit outside the box. We're going to talk about lasers. I'm extremely new to lasers. Like literally, I've never touched one before. I've watched a few videos, and I'm going to have to kind of figure this out as I go. So if you want to come along that journey with me, then stick around because that's what we're going to do. So if you've been around the channel for a while, you probably know that I've done some work with the CNC. What you probably don't know is that it took me a while to get comfortable using the CNC. I am not the most technically abled person that you can imagine. I'm getting up there in years, so I like to do things more by hand than anything. But in order to be able to make some of the things that I want to make and have the capabilities that I want to have for various projects and things, I needed to get into the realm of CNC, and there's an argument back and forth. Is it really woodworking? I'm not going to get into that here. To briefly cover that, I would tell you that it absolutely is woodworking. Just because the machine is carving something into a piece of wood doesn't mean you're not woodworking. You still have to design it. You still have to cut the wood, prep the wood. There's a lot of things that go on. You have to have woodworking tools in order to prepare the wood to even put it into the machine. You cut whatever you're going to cut on it, you take it out. It still has to be finished, stained, whatever you're going to do to it, sanded, just like any other thing in woodworking. It's just another tool. It's the way I feel about it. Granted, I don't do a ton of work with the CNC. I still do mostly everything by hand. I only use it for certain things here and there that you guys have seen. But one of the other capabilities that I've been wanting to mess around with is a laser. And I've been looking around and trying to figure out what I wanted to get, if I even wanted to get one. I really wasn't looking forward to diving into some more software. I'm assuming it just runs on G-code like CNC. I hope that's what it is, but we're about to find out. But anyway, as you know, I don't do a lot of sponsored videos. In fact, I've only ever done one. And in that situation, it was for a moisture meter because I didn't have one. I wanted one. And I didn't mind doing the video in order to have one. So, I did it, and that was that. In this case, I have also been sponsored for this video. I just want to put that out there first of all. So this laser is the Algolaser Alpha. They reached out to me. I've had lots and lots of people reach out to me to do lasers. Lots, not like a million of them, but several companies have reached out to me to do videos on reviews for lasers and that sort of thing. And generally, I just ignore them. But this one kind of caught my attention. I did a little research on it. There was a lot of things that I liked about it. It had the capabilities that I was looking for, and that was the big thing. And I needed the ability to cut through certain things, and primarily acrylic. You guys that have seen my cross jig video, the American flag videos, all the videos that have anything to do with American flags know that I've been saying I've been wanting to make star templates for a while now so that I could provide it to you guys and make my life easier when I'm doing them. Then this opportunity came along. Again, every time that somebody sends me something that they want me to look at, I'll give it the due diligence and take a look at it and see what it is, but generally I don't do it. In this case, though, I was really impressed with this laser, and I figured, hey, let's give it a shot. If it can do what I need it to do, it's going to make me very happy. You guys that are curious about laser machines or wanting to know how to use them, just like me, probably will get something out of this video. So that's my intent here. So we're going to take a look at this thing. We're going to figure it out together, and then we'll use it. I'll let you know what I think about it, and then we'll do videos going forward of projects that I'm going to make using this, including the star templates that everybody has been waiting for and asking me about. So let's get to it.
All I really need to say about the packaging is that I was really impressed compared to what I was expecting. Not only is it very well packaged and protected, but it is also very attractive and of obvious high quality. The first thing that you see upon opening are two small boxes. One of them very thoughtfully contains various consumables that have been included, including some black acrylic, some 1/8 inch plywood, and a few thin metal business card sized pieces with a black coating on them. I'm assuming that these are provided to aid in testing your setup and getting to know the capabilities of the machine and how it works, without wasting any of your own materials or resources, which I thought was an unexpectedly nice touch. The other box contains a manual or quick start guide that walks you through the process of assembling the machine, how to focus the laser module, and how to connect the machine to your computer. Like the packaging, the manual is attractive, well illustrated, and fairly comprehensive. This box also contains an information card that shows you all of the ways for you to find Algolaser on various social media platforms, and more importantly, describes the product warranty and how to contact them for troubleshooting and technical support. Their claim is that you will receive a response within 24 hours, and as I will attest to you in a few minutes, this is absolutely true in my experience. Because the instructions and the assembly video provided by Algolaser are already very good, with a couple of minor exceptions that we'll discuss in a moment, I decided to forego showing you the step-by-step assembly of the machine, and I will instead just focus on how I solved the issues that I had during assembly. Knowing that any of you who purchase this laser will be able to very easily assemble it using the Algolaser assembly video and the manual that comes with the machine. I will say that assembly was much easier than I anticipated, and that is primarily due to the fact that the machine is mostly assembled when you unpack it. I was especially pleased to see that the vast majority of all the wiring was already routed and assembled to the machine. Likewise, all of the belts and other small parts responsible for the function and movement of the machine are also already assembled. It is literally a matter of putting the 4 main rail pieces and the gantry in place and securing them with a few screws, and it can be done fairly quickly and easily. The assembly wasn't perfectly without issues, however, so I will tell you about those real quick and how I overcame them with the assistance of a very highly responsive Algolaser team.
Alright, so I ran into a couple of little hiccups when assembling this thing. Like I said before, the instructions are very professionally made. They look very nice. I'm actually pretty impressed by them. You don't normally see this quality of assembly instructions in, it's more than I was expecting to get with this machine. I'll just leave it at that. But that being said, it is missing some things, and there were some things that were not very clear, and that's what I'm going to point out right now. So primarily, the issue is the way that the air assist hooks up. There are 2 sets of instructions, one for the assembly of the laser and one for the assembly of the air assist. Neither of those tell you how to and where to put all of the hoses that come with the air assist portion of this thing. So essentially what it is it comes with 3 hoses. It comes with this one, which is a much more flexible hose and has a metal end on the end of it. And then it comes with 2 of these more stiff type hoses that are about the same length. While I was messing around with this, I pushed the end of one of these into this one, and it's fine. It went together fine. It's nice, good fit. The problem is, though, once you put it in there, I don't necessarily know if you can get it back out. Not a problem, because I want it in there anyway, but because of that, it told me that I should probably hold off on trying to assemble the rest of it, since I didn't know exactly where everything went, and I needed to contact them for that, along with something else. But anyway, I looked at it. I'm a pretty handy guy. I tried to figure it out using common sense, and it looked to me like, and I'll cut this in for you, but it looked to me like this hose should have been routed along with this power cable inside here, inside the clips, and then it would come up and go into this port on the side of the rail. And then the other hose, the other stiff hose, because this one goes from the front of the machine, the soft one goes from the front of the machine to the air assist pump. The other stiff hose, logically looking at it, would go from this port along these clips
and then plug into the only place that I could see on here, which is at the top of the laser module. That's what it seemed like the logical way to do it, so I wanted to contact them about that. The other thing was, I have this cable here. One of the things it tells you to do when you're assembling is push the rail all the way back. And what I noticed was there's two cables. There's this one with the white connector that goes over to this box. And then there's also this one that comes out of the box here, and it goes down, and again, I'll cut that in, to this little white connector down at the bottom. And it has all these little very small wires coming out of it going into the connector. So what was happening was, when I noticed when I was pushing this rail back, this wire was pressing against that wire, which was out here at the time, and flexing it quite a bit in anytime it came back all the way to the full position in the rear. And what I was concerned about is that with all of that pressure being put on those tiny wires into that tiny little connector, that over time that it would become an issue. I mean, almost clearly it would become an issue over time. So I started looking at it, and I remembered when I assembled this, there was this slot here for this cable to sit down in on this bracket. And I looked, and there was a similar slot on the other side of the bracket underneath this module. But I couldn't get the cables in there once it was assembled. And it didn't dawn on me till after the fact that, like, if I just take the screws out, move the rail, put the cables in, put them back in, put the screws back in. But I wanted to ask them about that, and I'll get to the answer in a second. But anyway, that's what I did, and I moved them in there, and that got them out of the way and brought them in closer so that this wasn't a problem. Now, that being said, those two issues, and then the third issue that I had was about the tensioning of the belts. In the instructions, it just simply tells you to tension the belts. It doesn't really say how tight they should be, any way to measure how tight they should be. It just tells you to tension the belts, and that the things should move easily and freely. Which, me as an aircraft mechanic, that's not enough information for me. I need to know how tight those belts need to be. So those are the questions that I asked them. Because this video was sponsored by Gearberry through to Algolaser, I contacted them because that's what they had requested that I do if I run into any problems. And within, I think it was an hour, I had a response. It was very, very quick. They contacted Algolaser, the engineers or whoever looked at it responded to them, and then they responded to me, and they sent me the links to two videos that are actually on their official YouTube channel as an answer to my questions here. Now, the one thing I will say is the videos did answer the questions, because they were essentially about the installation of the air assist pump and the assembly of the laser. And it's much better instruction than you get in the book, obviously, because you get to watch somebody as they're putting it together. Now, they did not address those things directly, at least two of them. They did not direct them directly. They did not address where these cables should be routed directly. Like, they didn't speak about it and specifically say this is how they should be. And they also did not tell you how to install these hard air tubes on here either. However, you are able to see, for example, when they install all this stuff on the video, and it very clearly shows when he's installing this rail that he puts these two wires into that little channel. So that clearly answered that question. Now, for the vacuum stuff, it wasn't this clear. They don't specifically talk about it, even in that instruction video. I don't know if an earlier iteration of this machine already had this stuff installed. Maybe that's what it is. I'm thinking that might be the case, because it was already there in the video. And the only reason I was able to discern how it's supposed to be is because I could see the video quality is very good. And as he was talking about the various areas, I could see that it was exactly the way that I thought it should go. That one of them went from the top of the module, came along the brackets here, and then came into this side. And then the other one went from here, went through the brackets here, and came out the front and attached to this one. Just the way I thought it was supposed to be. However, it also pointed out something that I didn't realize that I had done wrong, that also is not specifically called out in the instructions. And that is that I assembled this like this, assuming that this cable was supposed to be here. It's not. You can clearly see in the video when he assembles it that both this cable and the one that goes from here and down along this way, they are both outside of the frame. And it makes perfect sense now, because then I don't have this issue where it's pressing on this cable on this side, and it's actually putting a little tension on it going to this way. And logically it makes sense, and I didn't realize that when I was assembling it. It doesn't specifically call that out in the instructions. And again, they don't specifically tell you to do that in the video, but if you watch it carefully, you can see that's exactly what he does, and that both of these cables, this and the vacuum line, are both outside of the rail, and then they come under and go along this way. So I need to fix that. It's an easy fix. There's only 2 screws that hold this rail on each side. I'll pull them off, lift it up, bring it down around over the top so that this is on the outside, and reinstall it. It should just take a couple of seconds. And then I will install these the way that they're supposed to be installed on here, and this thing will be ready to go. Now, I want to emphasize that while the instructions are not perfect, again, a little bit of common sense goes a long way when you're doing something like this. But the important thing here is the surprising thing, when I showed you earlier when we first opened this thing, is one of the very first things that you see when you open this is the terms of the warranty, their exchange policy, troubleshooting support, contact information. All of that stuff is right here, easily available to you from the company that makes this, which is Algolaser. And that is something that you generally do not see on a lot of products that come from that region of the world. Normally the instructions are very bad, very not easy to understand, just terrible in their own rights. There's no way to contact them, to get parts, to ask questions, to get support. I mean, it just doesn't exist. So what I want to emphasize, obviously, is the fact that not only do you have support, but I mean, it's clear to me that they care about customer satisfaction, and they take these questions and issues seriously, and they want their customers to be happy and satisfied with the product, which that goes a long, long way when you're buying something like this of a technical nature. And if you have an issue, clearly you can get it resolved, and they want to get it resolved, and they want you to be happy with your purchase. So again, that's a massive plus, in my opinion. Oh, and the other thing that was addressed on the video for the assembly of the laser unit was the tension of the belts. It doesn't tell you like a specific tension. They go by sound, kind of like a guitar string. I did them initially so that they were just had maybe like a 1/4 to 1/2 inch of give in them. But the way they do it is they pluck it kind of like a guitar string, and you're supposed to go by the sound of it. And I do play the guitar, so I can tell the difference in the tones, and the sound that it's currently making, I don't know if you can hear that. It's a very low sound. It's not the same as what they were doing, so I need to tighten it a little bit. So apparently they need to be quite a bit tighter than I thought they need to be, and I'll make that adjustment as well. But basically you should be able to pluck the belt, and it should make like a doing doing type of sound. The only way I can describe it, you'd have to watch the video to try to figure it out for yourself, but it's definitely not right, so I'm going to make an adjustment on that.
Okay, so I took a few more minutes to make all those adjustments that I just told you about, starting with removing and repositioning that gantry so that the cables would route around the outside of the rail rather than inside of it. And I also got all of the air assist lines installed the way that I described and adjusted the tension on the belts until I was happy with the sound they were making. Once I got all that done, I got everything plugged in and ready so that I could turn it on for the first time and see if it works. I pushed it back to the back right hand position to start because when you first turn it on, what it should do is home itself to the front left position. Okay, so I actually saw this on a forum or something when I was doing the research about this, where this has been a problem for some people. You see there's a limit switch right there. It's hard to get it into focus. But that limit switch is not closing because it's not hitting this stop. The reason why it's not hitting this stop is on the other side, this rail is hitting this screw. And what I've read is that when that happens, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter if this screw's in this position or in this position. So when that happens, you need to take it out of here and put it in there so that the limit switch will be able to contact and you should be able to then operate it correctly. So that's what I'm going to do, and hopefully that will fix the problem. All right, so I got that moved. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it back far away and then try to restart it and see what happens. Success. All right, so now this is working the way it's supposed to be working. The air assist is controlled with this controller. So right now it's off, and then you can control how much air assist is by adding plus or minus here. I can definitely feel it coming out through the bottom of the laser. So it's working the way that it's supposed to, which is a good thing. All right, now I just got to figure out how to get a file to it and actually try to use it, and then we will finally have the test that we need to close this up. Okay, I want to take a couple minutes real quick to tell you about why I landed on this laser, why I decided to go with it, and some of the features that were important to me and why I thought it would be a good choice for me and for what I want to use it for. Again, I am very new to lasers, so I only have a very rudimentary understanding of some of these points, but I'll try to explain them and why they appealed to me to the best of my knowledge and ability. First and foremost, it has a powerful 22 watt diode laser. Most of the other lasers I've seen or been exposed to are in the 2 to 10 watt range. My understanding is that lasers that are in that power range are primarily designed for light duty engraving only. They're capable of doing more complex and detailed engraving jobs, but they will do them slower due to the lower power of the laser. Likewise, while some of those might have some through cutting capability, it's severely limited and would take multiple passes on even the thinnest materials. This laser, however, claims to be able to cut 30 millimeters or just over an inch thick pine boards and 10 millimeters or over a quarter of an inch thick black acrylic in a single pass, which is pretty much exactly the kind of capability I'm looking for in a laser. And while I don't currently have much need for this specific application, they also say that it can create 500 plus shades of color when engraving on stainless steel. Another thing that stands out is that it leverages an advanced second generation COS technology. While I'm not sure exactly what that means or even what it stands for, my understanding is that it compresses the laser spot from a rectangle to a square, which results in a smaller overall spot size that improves the performance of the laser by as much as 40%. It also has a powerful dual-core CPU that provides higher performance and energy efficiency. How that translates directly to you and me is that they say that it loads files 80% faster, or in 23 seconds compared to 180 seconds for others. It's also pretty fast, up to 400 millimeters per second and 10 times faster performance. They claim that it can produce a 210 by 280 millimeter engraving in 36 minutes, where others can take as long as 360 minutes for the same image. And possibly the biggest selling point for me was that it comes with a plug and play adjustable flow air assist pump as part of its base package. And then last but certainly not least, it also has several safety features like a key lock, an emergency stop switch, and a flame detector that, to a novice like me, are not just important, but essential to safe operation. Now that you better understand what it's capable of, we're going to put it through a few tests and let's see how it performs.
All right, so again, I want to reiterate that I know absolutely nothing about lasers, but I have done some preliminary research leading up to this, and I know that one of the prime capabilities that I want is to cut through material, and in order to do that, I need to be able to lift or raise the material up off of my surface and then also protect the surface with something, and they make these honeycomb beds to do that. So I bought one of those. I ordered it off Amazon. It's here, and that's what we're going to use for this test. So I just figured I'd show it to you real quick. So basically, it comes in two pieces. It has this sheet metal bottom that is the ultimate, I guess, layer of protection for your table or whatever it's sitting on. And then on top of that, you put this honeycomb bed, which sits on here, and then you can place your material on top of this, and when the laser cuts, I guess the honeycomb kind of refracts the light, and then again, your last layer of defense to your table is that piece of metal underneath. But as my understanding goes, this allows the air and the light to pass through the material so that you get a nice clean cut without burning on the bottom, because otherwise if you lay your workpiece flat on the table or whatever it is that you're cutting on and try to cut through it, the light or the laser, when it goes through, it has nowhere to go. It just sits right there underneath the workpiece or reflects back off of whatever it's on and will cause excessive burning on the bottom side where it cuts through. Again, that's my understanding of it. I don't know how accurate that is, but anyway, this is supposed to alleviate that problem. I think it was about $60. I'll leave a link below in the description for you, of course, if you're interested in getting this. It also comes with these little push pins. Basically, you put your material on here. I don't have anything close to me. So basically, if you put your material on here, you can take these push pins and put them around the edges of it in various places to hold it in place so that it doesn't move. Kind of like this. And so what this does is it kind of locks your material in place. It's not like a CNC where you have to make sure that it's completely fastened down and can't move at all, because this is not a router. This is, light basically passing through the material. So there's no like physical contact, so to speak. Again, I'm not a scientist, but there's nothing that's going to physically move the stuff. So you don't really have to worry too much about it. The router bit hitting it and pushing it out of the way, or messing up your cut that in that shape anyways. So and anyhow, these are kind of cool. Makes it pretty easy to put your thing down and keep it in place while you're doing your lasering. So we're going to take this, we're going to put it on the machine, and I'm going to attempt to run a cut test on this. It's slightly less than 1/4 inch thick plywood. I think it's 0.21 is what I measured it at, or like 5 1/4 millimeters. So we're going to do the cut test on this and see how well this works. So let's go check it out. Okay, so I am going to run this test real quick, and we'll see what it how it comes out. I know there's some nuance to how you are supposed to focus this laser. Typically, it's real easy to do. The way it works is that you lift it up and then you push down on this to make this little arm come down. And what happens is you just lower this now by moving this lever, and you lower the head down until that little thing that's sticking out is sitting on top of your workpiece, which there it is there. And then you lock it back into place. And then when you push this button, it'll retract. And that should be the proper setting to focus the laser. Now, I've watched some videos where some people recommend that you actually lower it even more until you are half the distance of the material farther down when you're going to cut through. So we may have to do that. For this first initial test, I'm just going to leave it like this, and we're going to see what happens. I'm also going to leave the guard on. It's not touching. I don't anticipate there being any problems, but again, I really am not entirely sure what I'm doing here, so kind of just going by the seat of my pants until we get it figured out. But let's go ahead and run this test and see what happens.
Okay, so off camera, I ran some material tests through Lightburn to test out the laser's ability to cut through things, and I ran into some problems. Part of it was due to me moving that bolt, which we'll talk about here in a second, but and I'll zoom in on this so that you can see it. But I had some problems with the quality of the printing and cutting. What happened was the laser was having trouble keeping the text in alignment. As you can see here, it was, it's kind of trailing off and moving in like a diagonal way, and it's not lined up, and everything looks kind of blurry because it was moving around on itself. And so anyway, I wasn't quite sure what was happening there. So I contacted them again, and just like last time, within I think it was a couple of hours, they got back to me. They sent me some more links to videos. So what they said was what's probably going on was one of two things. Either it had to do with the belts not being tensioned correctly, or that this X gantry was not aligned properly. And I think it was a little bit of a combination of both of those things. But as it turned out, when I moved this bolt, I don't know if you recall, I had moved it from this position to the front position. And so what happened was, during this thing operation, it caused it to kick out of alignment, I think. And then that's what was causing some of the problems that you saw there. So I had to move that bolt back to its proper position. And again, it just didn't specify this in the instructions. It did in the videos. So again, I have to reiterate, while the instructions look very nice and they are actually very good, I think if you are familiar with lasers, you won't have the kind of problems that I had. But I have no idea what I'm doing putting this thing together. But anyway, the video that they had pointed out at something else that the instructions didn't, and it was the fact that this gantry has to be aligned square to the rest of the machine, and it makes sense that it would need to be like that. But what had happened was, by me moving that bolt, it caused the condition or a capability for it to come out of alignment. And I believe that that's what happened, as it was operating, because there was room for it to get out of alignment. And so what I did was I moved that bolt back to the place that it was at, and then I followed the instructions on the video for how to make sure that this thing was aligned properly. And the way that is, and it has everything to do with this bar that goes across here, right here. This bar is what connects the motor, which is on this side, and I guess the mechanism that runs the belt and everything on this side. So again, the motor's here, and everything has to move together, and this is what ties it together. And the way it works is that you have the motor with a little piece sticking out, and then you have this side, a little piece sticking out, and then when you assemble it, you add this bar in with these two couplers that hold everything together. Each coupler has a set screw on each side of not only this bar but also the ones that are sticking out. and it holds everything together. So anyway, what they tell you in the instructions, or in that video I should say, is that you need to make sure that this is aligned, and it doesn't always do that. And they showed that in the video where basically the same problem that I was having is that it was hitting that stop that was in that place, but it wasn't completing that side, that connection on this side where the limit switch is. And you could flex this a little bit by pushing on it and getting it into that alignment. Well, the reason for that happening is because when you install this, the two pieces that are the one that's coming out of the motor, and then the part that's coming out of this side, might not necessarily be in alignment when you put that in, and it doesn't specifically tell you to make sure that that's the case. The video does, however, because it's rectifying an issue, I guess, that people have had, and it does work. So what I ended up having to do is I had to put it in this position, loosen these up, push it so that it was in the proper position, squared with the rest of the machine, so that when it hit this bolt, it was also hitting this limit switch, and it came to a full stop. Then tighten these back down. Once you do that, everything is aligned so that now when this thing moves, it stops on both sides exactly where it's supposed to stop. So that should fix the alignment issue that we were having with the text. And now we're going to run another test and see what happens. So a couple other things that I learned is that this thing needs to be on a solid base. I had it on a plastic folding table earlier, because I needed to get it closer to an exterior door or window, because one, it makes a lot of smoke. You really can't do this inside your house unless you have some sort of an enclosure. I have plans for that, but anyway, I had it on a plastic folding table, and I noticed that as it was moving, the whole thing was kind of moving. It wasn't steady enough for it. So currently I've got it in front of this door. It's on the floor. It's not the ideal situation, but for the sake of brevity, it's going to allow me to run these tests quickly and show you how this thing works. But anyway, that's why it looks like this and why it's sitting on the floor.
So I ended up running this test a couple of times because I wanted to tweak my speeds and powers to get the engraving to look a little better, because it was a little dark the first time, and got it just right on the second time.
All right, so this is the one we just ran, and as you can see, the engraving came out beautifully. I can read it. It's straight. It's not overlapping and doing all the crazy stuff that it was doing before. The cool thing about this material test is you can see what power, because it tells you from this speed to this speed and this power to this power, how well it's cutting, and what the differences are. And I can tell you right now that just looking at this is that I'll probably want to run this thing at about 70% power at 5 millimeters per second speed, because I get a nice, clean, perfect cut that on both sides is, there's no burning, it looks really good there. So, well, actually that's that one, but same thing. I got some extra tests that are overlapping each other here, but on the bottom side, it looks great on all of them, actually. I'm crazy happy with that. Actually, I might run it at 70-80%, but yeah. So now that I know that I'm cutting correctly, I've got kind of my speeds and power settings kind of figured out. Now we can actually try to cut something and see what it does.
So like probably everyone else who gets a brand new laser and wants to make something with it, I decided to go with my logo. It's my logo, and I think it's really cool. Otherwise I wouldn't have picked it. And it's a file that's readily available on my computer. And I just wanted to see what it would look like and, have something afterwards that I could probably do something with. So that's what I went with. And I got to say, I was pretty happy with the result.
So I'll give you a close up on this, but man, this thing came out pretty darn cool. Better than I was expecting, honestly. I used an actual JPEG image file as opposed to like a vector file in order to carve this. Because that's all I had in a pinch real quick, just trying to throw it together. But I mean,
I'll give you a close-up, but I mean, it got really good down right to the details of the images for something that's this small, because I had to make it considerably smaller to make it come out this size. But that is really, really cool. Very happy with that. For the very first thing that I ever cut, I completely expected this thing to turn out disastrous, and it didn't. When I first pulled it off of there, it looked a little cloudy in places, and I wasn't sure what was going on there. But as it turned out, I just needed to take it in. I did it off camera, but I blew it off with my air compressor and gave it a really, really light sanding with, like, I don't know, 320 or 400 grit sandpaper, and then blew it off again. And man, it looks really good. Wow. You can really feel the texture to where it did the engraving. I mean, it's just exceeded expectations, honestly. I can see that I'm going to be using this thing for a lot of really cool things going forward. So what are my final thoughts on this thing? It's easy to say that I think it's pretty awesome. It exceeded all of my expectations, honestly. The ability to cut in a single pass through something, in this case, which is about, well, it's about 3/16 or so, maybe in this case, but it cut through it pretty easily. It wasn't even at full power. It claims to be able to cut through 3/4 inch pine. That's yet to be determined. I may or may not need to do that at some point, but I'm thinking at 100% power and slow speed, it probably will. And if it doesn't, it'll definitely do it in 2 passes. My primary concern is how it's going to work with the acrylic, and we're going to see that probably in the next video that I do, or at least the next video with that machine, because I need to make those star templates for the flags and the crosses, and then I'm going to be using acrylic for that, and I'm going to be using this machine to cut it out. So we'll see how well it does there. But as for the way that it engraves, man, I mean, like I'm going to be doing some pictures, and we'll see that later in other videos too. But I mean, I have to say I'm really super impressed with that. I mean, I didn't think it was going to do it this well, and it looks pretty awesome. That being said, are there any negatives? Honestly, no. I mean, the only real negative, and it's not a negative, and I'll explain why, but the only thing I could even attribute to being a negative is the fact that I wish that the written instructions were maybe a little bit more detailed. Because, especially when it comes to the things that I had to troubleshoot, it would have been nice if they would have said, for example, the alignment issues that I had, put the couplings on loosely, push it all the way up against the forward stops, make sure that it's hitting in both places, tighten it down, and then that would have eliminated that issue that I had. The only other thing I think maybe is on one side, the belt was a little bit looser than it was on the other side, maybe a little bit bigger. I'm not sure what the deal was there, but I had to, in the adjustment of it and the tightening of it, I had to tighten it pretty much to the end of the ability, to the maximum that I was allowed to tighten it to. And as you can see, it works just fine, but I do have some thoughts about, was it going to get stretched out as I use it? Is it going to be a problem later? We'll see. I'll let you know if it becomes a problem. If it does, I'll get in contact with them, and then, I'm sure if I need a new belt or whatever I have to do, then we'll get that fixed. But as it stands, the way that it came, it went together just fine, and it's working great. So I really can't complain about any of that. But I am excited to see what else this thing can do. So stick around the channel and subscribe and all that if you want to see the other videos that I do with this going forward. And I'll probably also do some basic light burn tutorial videos for those of you like me that are just trying to figure out how to use the laser for the very first time. And I mean, dumbed down to the light burn for dummies version of it, to literally say, make sure you click on this, because if you don't, this is not going to work. And I had some of that with it, and I think it would be very helpful to you guys any of you that are just learning this fresh from a brand new laser like I am. And it'll make it a little bit easier for you to make the transition if you know what to look for and the very, very basic things to do. And with that, we're going to wrap up the video. The last thing that I'll say is, if you want to buy this laser, I've seen it in a few different places from anywhere between $1,000 and like $1,200 bucks. I believe it was about $1,000 on Amazon. But
I was sponsored through a company called Gearberry, who sells it on their website. And if you go through them, and I will put the link in the description below this video, but if you go through them, through that link, you can get it. It's currently on sale for $7.49, I believe. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, so you might want to hurry. But that was the best deal that I've seen, and it just so happens to be that's the link that I have to put in the description for you. So if you want to get it, then head down there and check it out. And with that all being said, I want to say thank you, as always, for watching the video. I appreciate it, of course. You can like, subscribe, do all those things the algorithm likes if you want to help out the channel. And as always, stay safe, happy woodworking, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.